From BC Hoops to Tech CEO, Kerri Shields is making sports more accessible one connection at a time. In this episode, we talked to Kerri about how she went from giving shooting lessons in Boston to building the PlayEasy Network, a platform that's changing how cities and sports events connect. Kerri shares the early grind and how they were forced to pivot during the pandemic and why accessibility in sports still drives everything that she does. This one's about relationships, resilience, and building something that actually matters. Welcome to Legacy Unscripted, brought to you by Progeny Coaching. This is the podcast where sports and business collide. I'm your host, Russ Katzman, and with every episode, we have an open conversation with someone who's built something meaningful. It's unscripted, unrehearsed, and unapologetically real. Today, I'm happy to welcome Kerri Shields, CEO of PlayEasy Network. Kerri, thanks for jumping on.
Russ, thank you so much for having me.
So, like many former athletes, you closed your career and wanted some way to stay connected to your sport. Why is that?
Yeah, so I grew up around sports my whole life. I am a child of two coaches, two former athletes, and uh, really grew up on a basketball court. My mom was coaching college basketball when my siblings and I were babies. And
Yeah.
so sports have always been a big part of my life and my family's life. And so once my playing days were over, I played at Boston College and then spent a year abroad in Ireland playing over there. I wanted to find some way to be connected to sports because it has always been my biggest passion. But I didn't know which realm I really wanted to be involved in. I knew I didn't want to go the coaching route. I am very passionate about the X's and O's of the game, and so
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be somehow involved in that way. So actually, when I transitioned from post college, I was working with the ACC network and doing color commentating. So, stayed involved outside of my full time job at the time by calling games, which I loved and was really passionate about and had a
Yeah, I
great
bet that was
experience.
cool.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, for so many reasons, I was doing it during the transition of uh, streaming and ways that you see college sports now on places like ESPN and ACC Network and just
Sure.
more readily available than they were when I was playing. And so it was really cool to see that transition, especially from the woman's side of things. And then I had this opportunity to start this company that I'm doing now. And I think I know we'll get into it, but there was a problem that I was having. I was also coaching on the side. So I was giving shooting lessons and just helping kids with their game. And I was living in Boston at the time, found it was a nightmare trying to find court and gym space,
Uh-huh.
and realized that there was no way to connect easily with sports venues. And so my co-founders and I went out to build at the time what we thought was going to be an Airbnb for booking athletic space. And so very long-winded answer to say I didn't
Yeah.
even know that this job would have existed. If you told me I would have started a company, when I was graduating college, I wouldn't have believed you. But I'm so thrilled and excited that I can continue to have sports play as big of a part of my life as it did when I was playing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the interesting phrase that you just threw out there is, if you'd have told me that this is what I was going to do, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
Right? When did you reach that point where you start to see yourself as a business owner? Was it on day one? Did it kind of have to hit you later? When did that kind of resonate with you?
To be honest, it still hasn't really hit me. When people say you're an entrepreneur, it's it's a weird thing because
Yeah.
it's never something that I really sought out or wanted to do. I think um, I have a really great founding team at PlayEasy, and uh, our CEO, we'll get into it, but we have two parts of our business, PlayEasy Incorporated and our CEO of PlayEasy Inc. He always wanted to start a company and
Mm.
he wanted to find, a solution to a problem that is out there. And when we came across this problem that he was also having on his side, giving football, um, punting and kicking clinics, and it was a nightmare trying to find field space. It was something that really resonated with me. I think I am someone who is passionate about finding solutions to problems. And when I realized that this could mean more building something that could make sports more accessible, not only to kids, but communities, and all of the stakeholders involved in having a successful event.
Mm.
That's what really drove me. And so when I think of when has it hit me? I mean, obviously there's times I realize I'm managing a lot of people at one time and a lot of the day to day. But yeah, it's still it's an ongoing thing that hopefully one day maybe it'll hit me. But it's uh it's a cool community to be a part of.
Okay. So you've got a bunch of roles now that you never anticipated before. You're, entrepreneur, you're a partner, a boss, manager, all those kind of things bottled up in one. What's your favorite role that you have right now that you maybe didn't anticipate before?
That's a great question. I would say I love working with people and I
Mhm.
love our team. We are so fortunate to be surrounded by like minded, passionate people who are really driven by our mission at PlayEasy. And so I love being able to work with people. And now we have a podcast and a conference, our second annual conference coming this summer, which allows for me to interact more with our community and our
Nice.
customers and the stakeholders involved. And so I would say just the relationship building and being able to connect with people from all different parts of life.
That's pretty cool. So for an individual who, self-proclaimed, you came into this, you just love to solve problems. Quite often those that like to solve problems like to solve a problem and then move on to another problem and solve that one. Move on to another one and solve that one. But here you've taken one that you've solved and now you're building a business around it, even if it's, solved in portions. You've built a business around this. Where's the challenge here? Is it to grow that and expand it? Is the challenge to search for new issues that are popping up? How do you keep yourself motivated each day?
Yeah, so it is very easy to there are constant problems that are happening.
Okay.
I mean, we started Plazy in 2018, quit our jobs full time to go into this. And so when we started, it was to build an Airbnb for booking athletic space. So being that transaction based model that connects people looking for places to play with those venues that could host people playing. Um,
Yeah.
we could have never anticipated the global pandemic happening during a time that we were officially releasing that transaction based model. But it ended up being a big opportunity for us because prior to uh, the 2020, what happened in March of 2020, and most of sports shutting down, was that we were part of a Techstars program called, it was the first ever Techstars Sports
Mm,
initiative in Indianapolis. And so we spent 3 months living in the city of Indianapolis through this program where it was really a boot camp for startups. But what it did for
nice.
us was introduce us to this world of sports tourism. And so
Yeah.
we had been active participants in this world of sports tourism since we were kids, traveling for our basketball, soccer,
Yeah.
football tournaments and going to these cities, having no idea that there were organizations and people who were responsible for bringing in these kind of events and creating an economic impact within those cities. And so that summer of 2019 really opened our eyes to a whole nother world that we were active participants in, and we were
Mhm.
trying to find a solution for a problem, but that there were way more people and organizations involved in this problem. And so what was a once a transaction based model became more of a connection based model. So, how could we become the centerpiece and the ecosystem that connects all of those stakeholders involved in hosting and running sports and events? And so, to answer your to better answer your question, things are constantly evolving. Our world is constantly evolving. We are in tech, and AI was not at the forefront of most conversations 2 years ago, and so how do we, get into the game of creating an AI digital experience for, marketing and creating that overall event experience? So, there's never a dull moment. I feel like there's always new ways that we are innovating and trying to stay at the forefront of innovation within our industry.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. Yeah, I think the interesting thing you touch on there is the difference between a transaction and the relationship. I feel like I've had this conversation probably a dozen times over the last month and a half. But I've got a few different financial advisors that I work with. And financial advisors, no offense to any financial advisors, but by nature, they tend to see things very transactional. At least early on in their careers, as they're starting to get their feet wet, they start to see it. They see it as transactional. They say, "As you give me your money, I will go invest your money." What they're forgetting about is that it's truly a relationship based transaction, if you want to call it that. Because if I don't trust you, I'm not going to give you my money. And so the sales process, the marketing, everything leading up to that has to be about trust. It can't be about the transaction. It can't be about, well, we'll get you better returns or we're going to diversify your portfolio like nobody else will. It has to be, we are here because we're going to be here with you for the next 20 years. We're going to be here, we're young. We're going to be with you all through your career till you retire, whatever that relationship's going to be. Um, Similarly, your model, to your point in your comments, it may have started out transactional in trying to book the fields, trying to build the events, trying to do that kind of stuff. But then as you get in there and you start to get involved with these families, you start to build a trust with them that when they want to hold an event, when they want to search for something, when they start moving up in grades and exposure and travel teams, all of that kind of stuff, you start to be a component of what they're looking for. And who they have as a partner for getting out and practicing or working out their own teams, or maybe when they become a coach, right?
Yes, definitely. And our industry in sports tourism and events and just the overall event experience, it is such a relationship based industry. And so when we talk about our customers on uh, our core customers are destinations. So
Yep.
destination marketing offices, CVBs, tourism bureaus, whose main job is to bring in these large scale events to create an economic impact within their city. So bringing in an NCAA championship, you know, softball, Lake Sears or gymnastics into Tulsa, Oklahoma to now bring in that event so that they'll stay in their hotels, spend money in their
Yep.
businesses, spend money in their restaurants, bars, etc. And so when we talk about the relationship based, that relationship with the cities that we work with, and those organizations that are running these events are so crucial. And so we are the center of connecting those relationships. And so the NCAA finding and connecting with those cities and potential hosts for those championship events that they're running.
You're basically filling a liaison role. And it's interesting because one of the things you told me when we first had our introduction was you had a goal to make sports accessible to everybody. Right. And what you are doing is you have to play this middle ground of venues and cities, et cetera, and the families that are traveling and the teams that are traveling. Talk to me the key to that, and I've talked to a few people like this, and I always find it fascinating how they interpret kind of that breaking point for themselves. The key to that is kind of goes back to the old fax machines, right? The first fax machine wasn't any good to anybody until somebody else had a fax machine. Your venues don't do you any good unless you have relationships with the families. Talk to me about when you felt like you had kind of that breaking point of, okay, we've got enough families we can market to these venues, or we've got enough venues we can market to the teams. How did that? When did you feel that, and kind of relief was that for you?
Yeah. So our core customers, so families are different, and I'll talk about this in two ways, and it kind of will show our two business lines within our PlayEasy umbrella pretty
Yeah,
well.
please.
So under our PlayEasy network, so we work with organizations, across the world that are looking to host events in other cities. So that could be anything from tournaments to championships to um, conferences, competitions. Um, those event organizers are representative of sports and events from your core sports of the basketball, football, hockey, um, baseball, lacrosse, to, I just talked to pillow fighting championships. I just talked to bass fishing, lawnmower competitions, to axe throwing. And so there are so many different types of events and sports out there, that are looking for a, a place to play and a relationship to build to help make that event experience as good as it could be for those families and participants that are coming to those events. And so we are connecting those organizations with the cities who are our core customers, that have a profile on our platform. And so it allows for them to easily digitally connect in one place. And so I would say when it kind of clicked, like we really built something meaningful. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime that we hear that there is an event taking place in X city that they found through, in Branson, Missouri, that they found through the PlayEasy platform because, Up Dog competition put through an RFP, and I connected them to cities that they didn't even know existed. And those cities
Mm.
didn't even know that there was an Up Dog challenge, but they were able to connect because of this platform that we built and this network that we built. And so I think really anytime it really puts things into perspective of just we've built something meaningful and we are helping to solve a lot of the problems, which is just the disconnect, within the sports tourism and events, side of things.
Very cool. So what's coming next? Where are you taking it from here?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a few times, but we recently just announced a restructure of our company, and so we are
Hmm.
still under the PlayEasy Incorporated umbrella, but there are two separate business lines. So we have PlayEasy Experiences, and we have the PlayEasy Network, and so the PlayEasy is a platform built at the intersection of sports events, destinations, and community, and so we help those places not just attract events, but also create experiences that drive real economic impact. And so we do that through the connected sides of our business. And so the PlayEasy Network is our media and community side of things. And so it's where we connect destinations and event organizers through, storytelling, through content, through our podcast, and through that relationship building. And then we have the PlayEasy Experiences side, which is our software platform. And so it's where destinations can manage events, can attract and enhance the visitor experiences for those families and visitors coming into the city for those events, and the local experiences in one place. And so together they really create something powerful. So we're not just a software company. We are not just a marketing and media company.
Right.
There are two sides that create a whole. And so this is a new restructure going into 2026. And it's something that we're really excited about because it gives us, two separate lanes to continue to build both sides of our business,
Yep.
as unified. But
Very cool. And you can't do that without having a good team in place. So let's drill down into that a little bit because I want to get to you as the business owner and your experience in the business a little bit more now. Talk to me about building a team from scratch. Obviously, you had a partner with you from the beginning. How does the partnership work? First of all, how are you guys as partners?
yeah, so we have a founding team of four. So I've mentioned Sean Flaherty
Hmm.
and our other founding member, Ryan Quigley. They were both two college football players at Boston College, where I played basketball. And so they've been friends of mine since college. And when we started, Plays in 2018, they were two people I really trusted, and uh, we were aligned in where we wanted to take this thing. And so it was the three of us, and then our CTO, John Gorin, who is
Okay.
just a master wizard in all things tech. And so he is really responsible for building our product, which is, has been incredible, having the four of us just be a team. And so
Yep.
that was from 2018. Obviously, it was a lot of transition, a roller coaster ride getting through the pandemic as a still a young startup.
Yep.
And during that time, we decided that, this was an opportunity for us. Like, I really believed that yes, we lost all ways of making money that way. And yes, we had to sacrifice a lot of things personally, just to be able to keep this thing going. But we really saw it as an opportunity that this industry needs a way to connect now more than ever digitally. And so um, we had our founding team and then slowly brought on a few interns that were at the time had either lost their positions or maybe had just graduated college, who were interested in just getting more work experience and wanted to, get involved with what we were building. And so um, I'd say most of our team has been hired full time through that internship process. And I will say that everyone we have full time made it an easy decision for us because we couldn't afford to lose them at that point. They became
Oh,
just employees that whether we could do it or weren't at the
yeah.
place financially at the time, we really couldn't afford to lose them because they became integral parts of what we were building. And so I would say that we are extremely fortunate to have the team that we have. But it's been through a lot of work and a lot of trust and um, just being surrounded by good people who make not only us personally better, but our team as a whole.
I like it. So how many people do you have underneath you right now? Total company, how many people are there?
So we have 11 full time.
11.
So went from yeah a small team to now a bit bigger, and so it's
Yeah.
pretty much evenly divided into the core focuses of the two core business sides. So.
Okay. How do you manage culture? This is always a fun question for me to ask because sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes they let it evolve. Talk to me your thoughts on culture within the organization and how it gets managed.
I think it's people first. I always think, worst case scenario, where the company could fold tomorrow. But if that happens, I really want the people that work with us to know that we really care about them as people, not just as employees. And so I think that is the mindset that our whole leadership team has taken.
Yeah.
We really invest not only in what you could do for us and how you can help us grow our network or make more money, but we really care about all of our employees as people and how they can grow professionally and putting them in spots to be successful. And so
Mhm.
I think that's been um, it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. And I think it's something that we really pride ourselves in, is that we will work as hard as we ask you to work, and we won't put you in positions that we don't think that you can be successful. And so, I think, yeah, with that, we've been really lucky to have just good people working for us and with us. But
Good.
yeah,
Well, good people that they are, there's always some things that pop up. Give me an example of maybe an employee issue, maybe a business issue that popped up that you never would have anticipated having to deal with when you started this.
I mean, I could say the pandemic, like
Of course.
it was a uh, you know, building a company anyways is such a roller coaster ride. It's full of a lot of ups, a lot of downs and real low points. And so I think during that time, having real hard conversations and making really hard decisions, that putting the company first and not just, our founding team, we really had to make decisions that we would have never, who could have anticipated the world shutting down as it did. And sports and live events being a big part of that. And so I think we all made decisions that were best for us and best for our families. And I think that's why it is so important that we do have a foundation built on friendship and trust. And so
Mhm.
I think getting through that, doing what we knew what was best for our company, our investors, and all the people who put a lot of faith into us, was something that we never could have anticipated. But I think we stayed the course and continued to make the main thing, and grow as we have.
So what was the one lesson that all of you pulled from that? Did you change the business model a little bit? Did you tweak it to make it a little more resilient? How did you alter the business coming out of that to make sure you don't end up there again should heaven forbid we end up in something similar.
Yes, I mean, spoke to it a little bit ago, but we changed our whole business model from that transaction based to
That
the
came
the
out of it.
connection side of things. And so it was, how do we become sticky within these organizations? How do we become a, a platform, a software, a community that our customers, wake up on a daily basis and think, I have to check what's on PlayEasy, or I need to find new leads that I can trust will come, like, quality leads that will come through this platform. And now, how do we, as on the PlayEasy experiences side, connect to these websites where we are pushing content that is coming directly from our software. And so I think it's just becoming sticky within those organizations. And I think over the past few years, it's something that we have done. We're not just a lead generator now. We are powering a lot of these digital experiences for these cities and destinations.
Okay. Um, some of that comes out of vision and being able to set the future of the organization. And typically, we do it at the founder level. They come together and do this kind of thing. How do you set the vision in your organization? Do you still pull on those 4 individual founders? Do you pull up from the other 7 individual employees as well? How do you set the vision for yourselves?
I think, we are very mission driven. And I think I'll speak for myself personally. I am not as passionate about the software. I want to find solutions to problems. That is what I'm passionate about. But what I am really passionate about is the connection piece, the community, and how do we continue to build something that connects and creates meaningful relationships and experiences. Because sports have impacted everyone on our team's lives to some degree, and
Mhm.
we are all passionate about that impact that it has had. And it's everything from the meaningful experiences that we had as kids participating in, events in different cities where we're traveling with teams and our teammates, and, exploring a new place and a new city. And how do we be a part of enhancing that overall event experiences for the participants and the spectators and the families that are traveling? And how do we continue to build solutions for our core customers, which are destinations? And so I think
Yeah.
having the foundation being on the same page as to, we're building something that's bigger than ourselves and bigger than just our software, but really doing something that is meaningful for our customers.
Very cool. Now I'm going to ask you something, and we may need to cut it out if you don't want to talk about it later.
Yeah.
But destinations that are, top for you guys, ones that are very popular or that people just don't know about yet. What are some of those that are on your platform that somebody might not think from a sports tourism standpoint that actually is quite good?
Yeah, I would say my job has been a huge lesson on geography. So
Yeah.
have we work with over 340 cities across the country and represented, I believe, in every state at this point, maybe except for one. And so I've been lucky enough to travel to places that I never even knew existed. And so we work with, some of the big cities that you'd know from some of the bigger sporting events, the Las
Right.
Vegas, the Indianapolis, the Philadelphia, um, Texas. But some of the cities that you probably wouldn't have. I don't want to because I really do love all of our customers that we work with. But I mentioned Branson, Missouri earlier. I
Yeah.
had a great experience and site visit out there. I recently went and spent a week in the state of Utah. So I was in Salt Lake City, Utah Valley, just Davis County, and all just
Mhm.
incredible teams. Um, all across the North Coast. I mean, the Northeast. We're hosting our first ever, or second, our second Innovators Summit. So our PlayEasy Innovator
Okay.
Summit will be hosted in Ann Arbor, Michigan this June. And so that was the first time I've been able to explore that city. And I think York County is another one, York County, South Carolina.
Mhm.
Uh, So, like I said, I could go on for days speaking about some of these cities, but I think what the unique perspective that we get are people that are really passionate about the places that they're representing. And they want anyone coming into the city to feel like an extension of their home, that they had the best experience possible while visiting their city. And so eh, it's one of my favorite parts of the job is just, being able to go on these site visits and meet these people who are so passionate about where they're from and who they're representing. And so um, I think that's the business we're in, is how do you enhance that event experience for people coming into their cities? And so, um, yeah, not to single out one because there are many that I could say, but
Yeah.
I've really loved every visit that I've had the opportunity to go on.
Well, that was a very politically correct answer.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I tried to get you to name a
well
few,
trained.
and you did throw a few out there. But
Yeah,
it's interesting. You take somebody, and just because you mentioned them, you take somebody like Branson, right? They're typically, traditionally, they've been known for certain things when it comes to tourism, not necessarily sports related. Now you're saying, you know what? If you're going to be there for that, we can have sports. If we're going to have sports, you can be there for other stuff. And I think that's the draw for a lot of these non-big cities, smaller places. It's cheaper to travel there typically. And they can still find enough for you to do in and around the tournaments and the events and that kind of stuff.
totally. And we just actually went through our leader board. So with our data, we're able to see who has had the most success on our platform. And two cities that stand out in the top five were um, Mitchell, South Dakota, and Snohomish County, Washington. And to see the success that they've been able to have in
Hmm.
promoting themselves as a destination and being able to utilize our software to not only engage the incoming events coming in, but engage with their local community. And so engage with their venues and their local businesses and hotels, that when people are coming in to visit, they're able to have a better relationship and connection with their local community so that they're all working together to be able to create that incredible event experience when visitors are coming into their city. And so those have been two really cool ones because I've actually never been to South Dakota. Hopefully, if Mitchell, you're listening, that's a site
Yeah.
visit I definitely want to go on. But to your point, it's not somewhere that you think that they would host a lot of sports. And now that we're getting not just into sports, but the overall event space.
Sure.
It's just how do you create a lasting impression for people that come to your city?
Very cool. Yeah, I've never been to Mitchell either. I guess we'll have to head up there.
Yes.
Get some invites out for us and anybody else that's listening.
Yeah.
So, uh, to you personally, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up for you. Uh, you were an athlete for years, came up with certain traits of an elite level athlete. What's one trait that you had as an elite level athlete that you've brought to yourself in as a business owner?
I would say resilience. I think I I'm very competitive. I've been a competitive person in my whole life. And I think I would like to say that my coaches would say, there was never a game I entered that I didn't think I could win. And I think that um, it's been i- incredibly important to the success I've had professionally and um, in just never giving up. And, I mentioned a few of the hard times and the low points. I mean, it really, building a company is such a roller coaster ride. And there are some highs, but the lows can be really low and it's hard and it's a lot of pressure. And there are so many times where you want to give up and throw in the towel. But I think what sports really taught me is that, you know, one, it's okay to fail, but what are you learning from those failures? How are you waking up the next day and fixing, you know, I had an off shooting night, then what's wrong with my shot? And not just, I'm never going to shoot again.
Hmm.
So it's all of the things that I learned through sports that helped build that resilience that I think has been integral as part of my professional journey.
Very good. Yeah, I don't know a single entrepreneur that doesn't have a certain level of resilience to them. Because
Yeah.
to your point, you have to.
Yeah.
So take me back to Kerri Shields 2018. What are you telling her about the journey ahead of her? What's the one, two things that you wish you'd have known at that point coming into all this?
There will be a global pandemic that will shut down.
Yeah. Going
Yeah,
back to the pandemic.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, once again, it goes back to sports. Like I remember my parents. I have two incredible supportive parents who have been a part of every part of, you know, my life, who always, instilled in me, control the controllables and, keep the main thing. And so when the highs are too high and the lows are too low, stay the course. When you work hard, when you prepare and you know, stay true to yourself and who you are,
Mhm.
things will work out. And so I think I would just say stay the course and have trust and faith in yourself and do things the right way. So
Very good. Well, Kerri, anything I haven't mentioned that you want to throw out there for the audience?
no, I wish I could go through all of the cities that we work with, so I give every one of them a good shout out. But I'm happy I got to throw a few more in there. But no, I mean, it's been such a pleasure getting to talk to you. I find as a founder and someone, a co-founder and someone building a business, you don't have a whole lot of time for reflection, and so being able to
Right.
have the opportunity to do so, I think, is always important. So I really appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll get a link to your sites out there so people can go out and look up all the cities that they want to.
Yes,
So,
I would love
thanks
that.
for
Love,
joining
love
us.
that, and highly encouraged. Yeah, thank you, Russ.
Appreciate it. So that's a
Bye.
wrap for this episode of Legacy Unscripted. If today's conversation sparks something in you, don't just let it sit. Take action today to build your future. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with someone who may need to hear it. And if you've got a story to share or you just want to connect, you know where to find me. Until next time, keep it real, keep it bold, and keep living your legacy.